You clicked on this video. Nice. You're one step closer to becoming the ultimate Scratcher. First, we're gonna start with a quick, easy guide to the basics of Scratch, and then we'll jump into making your first game. Step 2, make an account. Once you're ready, click on the Create button on the top left. Let's go over the interface of Scratch. In the top right, you have your preview window. This is where your project is going to be. Below it, you have basic controls of your sprite, such as naming it, position, whether you want it to be hidden or not, its size, and its direction. Over here below that are the sprites in your project. And to add a sprite, hover over this icon and choose a sprite from their library or paint your own sprite. Lastly, we have the work plane. This is where all your code is going to go. Sprites are a package of 3 different things. The code, which is the brains of the sprite, the costumes, which are the visual states of the sprite, and the sounds, which are the sounds your sprite has. There are a lot of blocks in Scratch, but you don't need to know all of them. All you really need to know are these categories. Motion, which moves your sprites and rotates your sprites. Looks, which can change the sprite's size or hide or show the sprite. Control. Control blocks are basic concepts of coding, such as loops, if statements, and waits. Sensing. These are inputs, such as touching something or when a key is pressed. And variables. These are just a box that stores information that you can refer to later. Alright, now with the basics out of the way, it's time to begin our game. The game we will be making is Pong. But wait, this isn't just any Pong, this is your Pong. By the end of this, you'll have your own custom version of Pong that you can tweak, upgrade, and completely redefine what Pong is. Okay, in our project, we're gonna start by making all of our sprites. So delete this default character and paint a new sprite. Zoom in, click on the circle tool, and then for the fill color, you can use these or your own color. Put your cursor anywhere, press and hold shift, and drag to make a perfect circle. Then you want to move this circle to the center, right there. And then just size it down. We're gonna name this ball. Now we're going to make the paddles. We're gonna select the box tool. I'm gonna make player 1 red. I'm gonna call this player 1. Now right click on player 1, select duplicate, and now you have player 2. All you have to do is click on this cursor, click here, and recolor. Now that we have the 2 paddles, now we just need to make the goals. So we'll paint another sprite and call this one player 1 goal. Now in the costume editor, this box right here is the preview. So anything outside of this box won't appear on the preview. But if it's in the box, it will appear on the preview. So what you want this goal to be is from the top of the preview all the way to the bottom of the preview. Now just duplicate, change the color. Okay, now that we're done with our sprites, let's move on to the code. So we'll work on the paddles first by getting their movement correct. So we'll go to the events, when green flag clicked, and we'll reset their positions first. Y will be 0 so that it's centered, and then we'll have -175. Then we go over here and get a forever loop. This will be our main game loop. Now we want to check if player 1 is pressing their movement keys. So we'll grab an if block, go to sensing, and if the W key is being pressed on the keyboard, we'll go to motion and change the Y by a positive value since we want it to go up. Now we'll right click on this duplicate and drop it there. Then we'll select S and change this to a negative number so that it goes down. We can test this by clicking on the green flag. And when I press W and when I press S, it moves up and down. Make sure you save your project. And now a neat trick in Scratch is when you want to have the same code in a different sprite, you can click on this code, drag it onto player 2, and let go. And then the code is on here, on player 2's side. But obviously, we need to change some things since it's player 2. The start position will be positive 175, so that it's on this side. And then when W key pressed, we'll replace that with up arrow pressed. And then for S, down arrow. So now when we run this project, you can see player 1 moves and player 2 moves. And even if you're pressing the keys at the same time, Scratch still moves both of them. Alright, let's move on to the ball. So our ball is going to have to bounce around. We'll start by getting green flag, resetting the position to the center. And then to start the game, we'll have it point in a random direction. We'll get a point in direction block. Then go to operators and pick random. We'll just plop that right there. And then we select between negative 180 degrees and 180 degrees. So now what this is going to do is, right now it's at 90, but when we click the green flag, you can see it's at negative 71. If we press it again, it's at 55. Then we'll wait 2 seconds and then we'll jump into our main game loop. So we'll always have the ball moving about 10 steps, maybe 7 for now. And then there's this nice block called if on edge bounce. This is going to help us with the ball bouncing around the edges. So now when we click the green flag, you can see the ball starts to bounce around. Now we need to have the paddles and the ball collide. So we'll go to the ball and get an if block. We'll go to sensing and we'll grab a touching block. And if the ball is touching player 1, then what we want to happen is that the ball will choose a random direction between 30 and 120 degrees. So we'll grab point in direction block and we'll grab pick random block. We'll put in 30, 120, and then we'll do the same thing for player 2. This time negative values. We can test this now. And it works. So now obviously we have the basic mechanics of this game working. The ball can bounce around on the paddles, but when it hits the other side, it doesn't score. So we need that to also count. Go to the variables and create a new variable. We'll call this player 1 score. Don't worry about these options, but if you want to know, for all sprites means that any sprite can change the values and access this variable. For this sprite only means only this sprite can control the value. And cloud variable just means that other people who are on your project at the same time can see that variable changing. So for now, we'll keep it on for all sprites. Also right click on my variable and just delete it. At the beginning of each game, we'll reset player 1 score to 0. Now if you were to look at the preview window, you can see player 1 score and its value. This is a variable display, so we can actually move these around. This looks kind of ugly with player 1 score and then 0. So if you double click on this, you can see it changes it into a compact view. And if you double click it again, it changes into a slider. Obviously we don't want that, so we'll just keep it in this compact view and just place it right there. We'll do the same thing for player 2. And now we have our scores. Now what we want to happen is that when the ball touches one of the goals, it will add a point to the opposite person's goal. So we'll go to player 1's goal, grab a 1 flag clicked, and just reset its position, even though it's not moving. It's always a good habit to do that. Drag out our game loop, and when the ball touches it, you want to change player 2's score, not player 1's score, by 1. This works perfectly fine, but as you can see, there's a problem. When the ball hits player 1's goal, it gives player 2 3 points. So now that's a problem. We said 1 point, so why is it doing that? So when the ball hits player 1's goal, it is technically still touching the goal even for a few milliseconds. And so Scratch counts that, and so that's why it's getting 3 points instead of 1. So to fix this, after it adds a point, we'll just drop in a wait 1 second. Now this should have fixed our issue. There. Now we'll drag this code to player 2's goal, make our modifications, and now you have successfully made Pong in Scratch. You've made your first game in Scratch. Now, obviously, this game has a lot of things that you can add to it. Maybe a play button, a reset function, so when you score, the ball will reset its position and a new round starts. Or maybe you could have a winning animation. You could also have sounds. There are a lot of things you can do to level up your game when you think you're done. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more tutorials like these, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. See you in the next tutorial.